Hello, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where it's all about learning. My name is Rick Zanotti, and I am joined today by, oh my gosh, it's not Leslie today. It's someone else that you know. He's been on the show so many times, we gave him a permanent spot. No, I'm kidding. He's subbing today for Leslie. It is Ajay Pangarkar joining us from Canada. How are you, Ajay?
I'm good, Rick. It's good to be here again with you. And hey, got a slight promotion. So, but I don't think I can ever replace Leslie. So
no, but you know what?
I think your spot is safe for now.
And actually, we didn't think about making you the co-host until yesterday. We said, let's make him co-host. That'll even out the fray when we get into it. So we thought that'd be good. And in studio, we've got Harold Muliati. He is the unbodied presence right now running the video production and show. And we've got a great guest today. We've got Anthony Altieri, first time on the show. And he's got a lot to say. It's going to be interesting. Here we go. More and more people are working remotely every day. Your company may already be remote. You may be new to working remotely, whether you're a worker or a manager. Working remotely has some challenges and some very good points to it as well. In our training, we'll make sure that you learn how to work remotely, how to build trust, how to do all the things that make remote working successful. And we'll also talk about some of the pitfalls and what to avoid. Working remotely for workers and managers. It's our new course on Udemy. Thanks. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation. Visit us at www.relatecasts.net. Thanks. And we are back, and in that center position of power, as we always call it. Now, Ajay's been in that position many times, and it sizzles. We've got Anthony Altieri. How are you doing, Anthony?
Hey, I get to be the Jim J. Bullock of the group today.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Boy, that's a reference, my friend.
Use that power wisely.
You a lot of pressure on you, Anthony. You got to sizzle now because I sizzled, and
sizzle.
Now you have to sizzle.
Sizzle.
No, no, I'm sorry. Rick misread the cue. That was supposed to be an F. You fizzled. Sorry. We'll fix it in post.
Perfect.
It's a good thing you guys have never met before. This could be really scary. Yeah.
No idea who this guy is, but trust me, I don't want to say this to his face, but he knows what he's talking about.
Well, Anthony, you are here by the grace of Ajay. He's the one who said, have you had Anthony on? Anthony, who? He goes, Altieri. I go, I know the name. He goes, you need to have him on. So we did. And we included Ajay as part of the package.
Now, fair enough, Rick. We have to warn our viewers that, of course, Anthony and I know each other. But those who've known us in the past know that when we get together, it becomes a little bit of I don't know how to put it. Maybe Anthony has better words, but becomes an interesting viewing event.
So we can call it eLearn Match today.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one of us is the Abbott to the other's Costello, but.
So anyway, what's our topic today?
xAPI, Rick. We're talking about xAPI, and and Anthony is, if I could just share with you in all seriousness, the man knows his stuff when it comes to xAPI, and I know this topic in L&D, it's always, one of those topics that either you really get it or you don't, and you want to learn something out of it. So Anthony has a great course on it too with LinkedIn Learning. And it brings people into the sort of basic fundamentals. But, and I'll let him speak to it, but it's really important that we speak to it. And what I'd like to bring to the table with Anthony is, of course, speaking to the business angle and the value that it brings to the table for businesses as well.
Now, before we do that, just for the people who don't know, a lot of people think that xAPI or xAPI is the LMS proper. How would you define xAPI versus, quote unquote, the standard LMS?
So xAPI would be to the LMS what SCORM is to the LMS. It's not the LMS itself, it's the protocol or the specification, the communications by which a course or an activity reports back student or consumer progress. So much in the way that SCORM would report back to the learning management system, hey, Ajay took this course and he passed. xAPI does the same thing. Now, the other wrinkle in this, though, is what xAPI, strictly speaking, xAPI talks to a server component called the Learning Record Store, or the LRS. And at the end of the day, it's a glorified database that takes in these statement activities that say, Anthony clicked this button, Anthony launched this course, Anthony did whatever. An LMS, or learning management system, can have a learning record store built in, much in the same way that some of the more monolithic talent management systems have an HR module built in, or a media module built in, or whatever. But yeah, we definitely get into the alphabet soup a little bit more when you start talking about xAPI.
What LMSs, for the people out there, are supporting xAPI? I don't know if anybody supports it completely, but what of the more known ones are supporting it right now? I know they make claims, but
So most of the bigger ones support it at some level, and unfortunately, even their support is a kind of a grayish area. Because one of the things people don't think about very often, and a lot of people don't even realize, xAPI is actually 4 APIs. There's the statement API that everybody knows and loves. I did this. But then you also have the document APIs of the activity API, the state API, and the agent API. So you can actually send statements that don't describe what I did, but they describe me as a person. So, maybe a leaderboard or my preferences when I take a course. Do I want it muted? What language, subtitles, etc. Then there's also the activity API that talks about the activity. So that might be a leaderboard of, hey, here's this course and here are the people who got the best scores, or they finished it the fastest, or whatever. And then the state API is the state of my activity within a course. So this would be analogous to the suspend data in SCORM, if you're familiar with that. So right off the bat, you have a lot of LMSs that support the statement API, but not the other three. So, they support part of xAPI. They don't support all of it. And even within the statement API, then you have ones, we'll take the statement, but you can't query against it. We're not going to let you pull the data. So the concept of support is really gray. It's a sliding scale. But the ones that offer at least some xAPI support, Saba does, Cornerstone on Demand does now, Meridian does. I'm pretty sure SuccessFactors does now. eLogic has one that does. There's a few out there that do. And again, it's just a question of to what level it supports it.
Because essentially, if you think about it, look how long, what year are we in? We're in 2021, and SCORM 2004 has only now started getting more accepted. And you just kind of shake your head.
Actually, here's a scary thought. SCORM 1.0 released in 2000. It was 21 years ago. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of content is still SCORM 1.2 that released in 2000 and late 2002 or early 2003.
Yeah, that's scary, huh?
So 20-year-old technology still drives the vast majority of this business.
So that being said, how long do you think before xAPI really starts making an impact?
I gave it 5 years, so I'm already running late. I think a large part of it. I think.
Sorry, let me ask you, Anthony. Sorry, let me ask you. Add to that question though before you finish. Why is the pickup not there in your answer? I just want to know why people are not picking it up, because you said you're late on the prediction.
So I think there's two reasons. One is with SCORM, we basically gave you a box and said, sit down, shut up, and do it like this. We were they were more polite about it. I'm not very polite about anything.
No, you're not.
But, we gave very strict rules around this is how you do things. Like it. With xAPI is a lot more like a language, and you think about, first off, what do you call the midday meal? I mean, let's think about something as simple as that. What do you call the midday meal? Some people call it supper, some people call it dinner, some people call it lunch. It kind of depends on where you are. So if you think about when you're recording an activity stream, well, do you launch the course? Do you attempt the course? What verbs? How are you making that statement? So there's a lot of flexibility. Unfortunately, with that flexibility, at the risk of sounding cliched, with great power comes responsibility. And for those of you who can find no way home, so the problem is there are no real formulas of, if you want to get xAPI, if you want to start using xAPI, do this, the way we had with SCORM. So that's the first problem, is we don't really have a step-by-step, do this. There's still a lot of creativity that's required on the users, or on the admin's end, or on the L&D end. The other problem, and this is probably part of why that other guy is here today, is the business buy-in for xAPI. Here's the thing, for as much as we ridicule SCORM, first off, I have a house because of SCORM. I mean, it bought a house for me. But it also works. It's been around for 21 years, but it works. It does a job. It does the thing we need it to do. Why am I going to pay all this money to potentially get a new LMS or get an LRS that sits on the side, get new development tools, maybe hire new talent, or have people take an amazing course available on LinkedIn Learning today, xAPI Foundations. Go check it out. Harold, you are my hero. I love you. Why am I going to do this if I already have technology that works? Don't replace something that works. So now it's getting that business buy-in and saying, yes, this works, but it could be doing so much more, and it could be contributing so much more to the success of our business.
But that's and it's sort of interesting if you think about it, and Ajay and I have talked about this quite a bit. Companies don't really give that much of a damn about learning data that much.
Well, but how?
I don't think that's entirely true, Rick. I mean,
okay,
I think
not that much. Meaning they want some data. A lot of it's mostly for checkoff purposes, but they don't a lot. Now there are some that do, but there's a lot that just don't care that much.
Here's where the hairs on the back of some people in your viewing audience will stand up, because I think Anthony and I are on the same page on this. It honestly, and this is a bit of the tough love side, I think it's L&D's fault for not being able to leverage that appropriately. Right. The tools are there. Now, I can attest on the business side, they are looking for value. They're looking for direction. Right. And I keep reminding people that learning is, of course, in the top 5 concerns of corporate leaders today. I've been reading articles about it because I'm writing a new paper on it, and it's in the top 5. So, but we're not delivering the value that they expect. So we need that data, we need that information to be able to provide the value. And I think the onus is on us. When I say us, I'm talking about L&D. And where Anthony is going with this, the xAPI, and maybe I'll let Anthony jump in here, but the xAPI, I think partially it's intimidating to the extent that, as he put it, there's that language aspect rather than being provided a box that works. And so people get a little intimidated when you start talking about programming and language and this kind of stuff. And it really is not that difficult. Again, I'm not going to I'll keep plugging it because I think it's a great course, but Anthony's course really speaks to the fundamentals of it. But it's about understanding how to build that reporting capability so it does drive value to the LMS, because at the end of the day, you bought this LMS. Now, back in the day, people were buying LMSs for tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now they subscribe to it. But that being said, if you're hunkered down with a dinosaur that you spend a few $100,000 on, you better start showing value why you convinced your leaders to buy it in the first place. And xAPI can do that for them. Anthony, you want to kick in on that one?
Yeah. Why, yes, Ajay. I don't know which side you're on. I don't know where to look. Yes, Ajay.
No, I'm going to poke you. I'm gonna poke you. There we go.
I think, I'm going to fall back to a Steve Jobs quote that I'm going to mangle is never give the customer what they want, give them what they're going to want. Because part of the problem is how many of the, first of all, I agree with everything Ajay said around business concerns.
But the other issue, make a clip of that because I need to shop it around.
That's going to be his ringtone now. But he's right that businesses are concerned about this because for most businesses, the training department, it's a cost center. It's pure outlay of cost, and maybe it's cost reduction or cost recoup, but most companies do not make money. It's not a revenue center. So they're absolutely looking at that. The other side of that concern, though, is, again, with SCORM, you got like 4 basic pieces of information. I knew Ajay took a course. I knew which course he took. I knew when he completed it, if he completed it, and I knew if he passed it. That's it.
But does he go with the butts and seats again?
Well, but hold on, because the important thing here is, so that's what training people have been saying for the last 20 years is, hey, this is the information we can give you. So businesses have stopped asking. They don't know to ask, hey, can we get more information? Or if they do, the training practitioners may not know because they're not familiar with xAPI. Oh, yeah, we can get some of this information. Now xAPI opens that door, and as more leadership in business finds out about this, they're going to start asking more questions, and I think that's what's eventually going to cause that uptick, is the business is saying, hey, we've been wanting to know this for a while, and now you have a way to tell us. We want this. This is a thing we want.
So what would be a typical question that business would want?
Ajay, you're the business guy.
Yeah, so it's a valid question, Rick. At the end of the day, I think what Anthony's trying to say about that Steve Jobs quote is basically, they don't know what they want until, you don't necessarily know what you want, but you need it, right, kind of thing. But the questions that they would want to ask, and let me digress just a little bit on a tangent here. When we're working in a world that all companies are concerned about data analytics, and analytics means information and knowledge, and companies are driven, I don't care what company you are driven by information and knowledge these days. They may not know what to ask, but what they need to know is that how is that knowledge going to contribute to their success or to achieving their objectives, whatever that objective is. And so what's concerning of me here, and that's probably the key question, and you can break that down into a lot of smaller components, but that's the big $100,000 question they probably want to ask, that look, we're putting money into you. It is a cost center, just like a lot of other cost centers, production, marketing, accounting. All these are cost centers, but L&D's importance here is about how it drives that knowledge to deliver value in a day when they need the knowledge. So the problem is it's almost like a dog chasing its tail. Going back to Anthony's point is that the way xAPI, and Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the way xAPI in general is perceived is a bit of a complexity that it requires programming. And so it's almost like people are trying to avoid it, especially in L&D, where they say, well, we're not technical, we're not programmers, we're not this or that, so why do we need this tool when we already have something that works? And that SCORM stuff, in my opinion, is great for compliance, but that's about it, because it just says, hey, Ajay or Anthony or Rick did a course and checked off. But it didn't show us or tell us what value did having the three of us take that course deliver to the organization. And that's where I think you see the difference between those L&D people that actually embrace xAPI and learn how to report it. And to be honest, I think those who embrace xAPI think it's not as powerful as it should be. I think they're the ones who want even more to deliver value. But that being said, I think, the one question on the business side is how is this knowledge going to contribute to helping me achieve my objectives? And that's really the only question, because we're driven in an information age and we need the technology to do that. On the other side, we have L&D people who are being resistant, maybe because out of fear, maybe because of, whatever it is, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of attitude. I don't know. Anthony, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Now, Anthony, going along with what Ajay said, SCORM, either 1.2 or 2004, can also keep track of custom data, which almost nobody ever uses. There are things in SCORM that could give you more information, rarely ever implemented. Is SCORM that bad, or just was never well implemented?
Yes.
Anthony, a little more, please.
Well, he's an IT guy, so I know what he's saying.
No, so here's the problem. SCORM 2004, absolutely. SCORM 1.2, a little bit less so, but it can as well. For example, in SCORM, you can select, one of my favorite things I like to point out is, what is the most popular incorrect answer? Because that then tells me, okay, either I have a bad question or I didn't cover it really well in the course material. You can actually do that in SCORM. You can capture that information, but here's the catch. Name an LMS that will let me report on that in mass. And there just isn't one. And that's the problem is, SCORM made allowances for that, but it was used so infrequently that no LMS ever built functionality to really support that across a segment of data. At an individual learner's perspective, I know for SABA, for example, I can drill right down into that specific student and I can see what their answers were and everything. Mm-hmm. But I can't run a report to say, hey, I want to know what happened to question 1 on this quiz in this exam or in this course and report on that.
You could, but then it requires a whole level of IT involvement to have report writers that can actually get at the data, and nobody wants to do that. We've worked at companies that did that, but it became expensive. They had data warehouses, and they would report on what was in the data warehouse, and it worked. I mean, they got some great analytics, and then they threw it all out, and you just go, oh.
Well, so that's what I mean is but you know what you're describing. You built a third-party data warehouse with third-party BI tools, and you reported that way. The LMS wasn't there for you.
It was another $500,000 investment, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Whereas with an LRS, with xAPI, it's a 5-minute JavaScript.
So, Anthony, what would you say if for people watching or future watching, if they're in the business of looking at an LMS today, or looking at either upgrading or changing or buying a new LMS, or from their existing LMS, what should they want to look for when it comes to xAPI and further, as we're discussing?
So the first thing I would say is stop looking for a new LMS or LRS or whatever, take a step back, and really ask yourself, why do you want a new LMS, LRS, LSMFT, whatever? Why are you doing this? What do you need or what do you want that you don't think you're getting or is not available in the product you have now? And really do a deep dive of what your goals are. And then depending on those goals, I mean, I've worked with companies that say, oh, we need a new LMS because this one doesn't support xAPI. Well, yeah, actually they did. You just didn't know they did. So that's always the first thing I say is make sure you've got the right tools. Once that's done, make sure you've got your goals and what data what questions do you need answered and what data do you need to answer those and how do you get that data? Once you have that, now you can start writing up your RFPs to look at LMSs or potential LMSs and LRS providers and say, all right, I need something that I can build this kind of a report, or I need something that I can capture and report on this kind of data. And make sure they don't just ask, do you support xAPI? As we covered earlier, that's a big, can you drive? Yeah, I can drive. It doesn't mean I can drive a big rig. Really dial in, get very specific with your needs, and as often as possible, give examples of, this is the kind of thing we want to do. Show me how I can do it in your product.
Yeah, and if I can extend on that, you bring up a lot of points because the questions that they need to be asking is a lot from the business perspective, right? And rather than sitting in your cubicle thinking that you need to manage learning, it's about managing outcomes and results and performance. I know you and I spoke about this extensively, and I hate to put a bit of a plug here, but one of the articles I've written for e-learning industry, and I quoted you in it, called "Leveraging xAPI for Tangible Learning Value and Business Results," speaks to asking those right questions. Because if you're going to have a reporting capability and you want to demonstrate that value, you better speak to the stakeholders that you're delivering that value to before actually putting any type of investment in your business, in the learning side. Because it's really, at the end of the day, it's not about learning, it's about performance.
Now, there's another thing. What you were saying basically at the beginning is the L&D department has to train or teach or inform the people they work with what's available, what's capable, because they don't know.
Yeah, and one of the things, just to build on Ajay's point, one of the reasons that I think you're going to start seeing, and Ajay's commented on this in the past, one of the reasons you're going to start seeing executive leadership start taking more of an eye at training is, you think about, now I'm going to be a little anachronistic here because, we live in the times that we do, but up until the decade that was 2020, or hopefully in 2022 moving forward, we're going to start putting people back in a classroom, butts in seats. And they're going to look at, well, if I'm taking somebody off the floor, I'm taking somebody out of production. This is a person who's no longer contributing to revenue for 8 hours. Do they actually need an 8-hour course? What part of that course is the effective part? What part of that is the part that actually contributes the most to the overall success of these employees? And if there are sections that don't contribute, or contribute very, very marginally, or very little, get rid of them. If it's a compliance issue, it's a compliance issue. But from a revenue standpoint, from a cost standpoint, we can lower the cost of training, because people talk about training like, oh, well, I'm the training person, I get paid this much, I have my computer, I have my software. Training costs also extends to the time I'm taking these employees off the floor and putting them in front of a computer or putting them into a classroom. And if we can lower that, we help the bottom line of the company, and we make L&D less of a cost center.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of the training is still very long. It's painful, and it doesn't have to. Look at simulation training. This drives me crazy when I see this kind of simulation training. You'll see something like, now we're going to enter a name and address field. The name is where you put because it's like, really? Do you have to go into extreme detail about what the name is and what the address field is? And so you spend 10 minutes figuring out who the name, address, phone number, and it's like, that's a waste of 10 minutes. Most people, if they don't know that, why are they there? It just gets really childish sometimes. And it's just, I almost think it's I have to write a course and I have to justify the money we make on it. So let's it's an hour course to teach people how to enter a name and address field. And you just go, oh no. And there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of courses. Look at compliance courses. On average, a lot of compliance courses are about 2 hours. And you go, 2 hours? And they're heavy and they're not exciting or fun or anything else. And it's not broken into multiple courses or lessons. It's just one big lesson. That's common out there. There's a lot of that. Now, of course, people are trying to make better courses, but there's still a lot of garbage out there. And so the people in the companies, so forget the LMS for a moment, they can't stand the training. And then you've got to go, sell a new LMS or a new xAPI when you still have training that's awful. Meaning that foundational step that you're talking about has to go even further. How do we make our training better aside from what we're training or what we're reporting on?
Rick, that speaks back to what Anthony just said. That speaks back to the xAPI stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if we want to make better training more, and we speak about relevant training, listen, I hear L&D people scream about how we have social learning and blended learning and e-learning and all this kind of stuff, everything that under the sun of learning. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Do you know how to piece this together? To Anthony's point, if we're pulling somebody out of the office or out of the plant floor or whatever it may be into a learning, are we pulling it out for the right reasons because that's why they need to be pulled off? And then can we package the other components in other ways in sort of a real-time micro-learning environment where they need to access it when they need to access it? There's a whole xAPI can allow us to report on that. And not just report, not to be latent about it. What I'm saying is that it's not a reactive. If we can become proactive, we use the xAPI reporting capability to be able to foresee the relevant training and how to package it properly. Guess what? My goodness, if you took that person that Anthony spoke about and say, okay, you don't have to spend 8 hours in that training, but you only have to spend an hour and a half in that training because this is what you need to learn in person. But the other 6.5, whatever it is, you can go back to the production floor and then access it when you need it. Man, can you just forget about revenue? Just talk about cost savings and profitability. I mean, right there, the stakeholders are going to go, wow, and how do you do that? Well, we use xAPI to report on these certain things, and this is where we found the value and how to package it properly. Bingo, you're going to look like a hero just for doing that. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, now, one thing I do want to caution is xAPI is not a magic sword. It's not Excalibur. No woman in any lake lobbed it at us. So, the reality is, bad data from SCORM is going to be bad data in xAPI. There's going to be bad data wherever. Yeah. So just saying, oh, hey, we're going to get xAPI, that's not enough. You have to look at the analytics of how do I, what data do I need, and then make sure that data is there, which xAPI opens a lot of doors for. But it's more than just the conversion. I do want to make sure, because I've had that conversation before.
That's a good point, Anthony, and I think it all speaks to, between the intimidation that maybe the term xAPI lends to L&D people, the other term that's probably intimidating people is things like the term analytics, right? And I always remind people that term is not really new. It's probably new for us in the times that we live in, but it's all about sifting through data and seeing what's valuable and leveraging that data for intended purposes. And if you're not bringing in the right data for the intended purposes that you're looking for, you're not going to be making decisions on the right data or the right information. And so I think the analytics part also intimidates people, right? But that's the reality. That it is to me, is like, should be the golden age of L&D. But I still hear people whining about it, and they shouldn't be.
Now let me ask both of you something. What are they teaching in a lot of these instructional design or instructional technology programs that even...
Oh, Rick, you're poking the bear with Anthony.
I am. I mean, what are they really teaching? Because, we've interviewed throughout the years and have had people working with who come out of ID or IT, or I should say instructional technology backgrounds. They know nothing about LMSs at all. Let's just talk basic LMS. Then let's talk xAPI. They talk about xAPI, but they don't understand it. It's just a more modern buzzword. Where does that training comes? Where does that training come from? Aside from your class, but that'd be a good one.
Who do we want to insult first? But anyways.
Well, Ajay, as co-host, I'll give you that honor.
Oh, no. The guest should always have the honor to go first.
Yes. Anthony.
Oh boy. Where do we start?
Where do we start?
Here's the thing. You have to look at the pedigree, or not even the pedigree. Look at the legacy or the history of the training departments. First off, I always say training. I don't say learning. How do I manage somebody else's learning? I can manage their training. How do I manage what they learn? That's silly. But keep it in mind with that, most of the people who came into this sport, myself included, Ajay, most of the people I know, we were subject matter experts somewhere else. Either we were subject matter experts in a topic that somebody needed a course built, or in my case, I was IT, somebody needed help supporting the LMS. So most of the people that are in training right now, we fell into it because we came from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And as a result, and again, this might be a case of business leadership just accepted, oh, well, this is how it is. But, oh, dear Lord, it shouldn't be. There's no reason why I talk to training I talk to training practitioners. Let me correct myself there. I talk to training practitioners who have no idea, cannot read JavaScript at all. They have no idea. If anything goes wrong, all they can do is whatever their authoring tool allows them to do.
Yeah.
And so things like this are not being covered. I won't say anybody by name. I'm aware of 2 programs. They spend all this time on gamification or gamification, but no time on programming, no time on data science, or very little on data science, no time at all, 0 on basic accounting.
Or
so
even
they have no idea.
Or even the business value of gamification. I mean, I know who you're talking about, but there's no business. They don't talk about, whenever I hear gamification, they all talk about how we create these scenarios to help people learn better. But have you learned about these scenarios to make them learn better to actually improve the business? Like, they don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony, just being devil's advocate here, I too come from a programming systems analysis, IT background. Not everybody's a programmer. And JavaScript is just hard enough for people who aren't programmers to go, I don't know what I'm doing. It confuses them. Basic web design confuses people. Just as most IT people have a hard time designing interfaces that are good, or graphics for that matter. So there's that part of the brain or ability that some people can handle it, some people can't. But you are right. Most people in the learning world really don't get the JavaScript or don't get other languages or even the database side of it. How do I make this database report better? Why is my LMS so slow or whatever? I used to say years ago, I was really bashing on the big LMSs going, have they ever heard of what a foreign key is and how to index something? Because this is garbage. It's so slow. And that's part of the issue. I think we're dealing with different modalities, different brain types, and different knowledge bases. Programming is hard for a lot of people, as is math for a lot of people. Not that they can't do it. They have a natural inclination to either be afraid of it or not want to do it.
So here's what I'll say, and this is where Ajay's reaching for the popcorn.
No, wait a minute. Before you say anything, this is where Anthony and I slightly differ a bit, but go ahead.
Okay, this is where you're reaching for the peanuts. Whatever. Okay. Here's the thing. If you don't know how the thing you created works, you're not a professional. Stop calling yourself. I'm sorry. Stop it. You're not. Yes, programming can be very difficult. But at the same time, so can being a chef. But I'll bet everybody who's watching this podcast right now or the show can make their own dinner. You don't have to be a chef. You don't have to be a Michelin-starred chef to be able to cook. You just have to understand some incredibly basic concepts around using a microwave, using an oven, using a skillet, what have you. Programming's the same way. You don't have to be able to write the next Google to be able to understand enough JavaScript to be able to understand how the thing you created is working and what's going on under the hood. So, yeah, I mean, if you're writing something incredibly complex that's very difficult, I 100% agree with you. Not everybody's cut out for that. And it's not me being egotistical. I have no artistic ability at all. If I try, anything above a stick figure, I can't draw. I mean, there's a lot of talents I simply do not have and I can't comprehend. But I can at least draw. Thank you for that support. I appreciate that. When are we bombing Canada again? Sorry.
Next week.
Start. I know where to start. But yeah. So I whole cloth reject the whole. Just because I can't write Google, I can't be a programmer. You can develop some of these skills and have some idea what's going on behind there. And most importantly, once you do, you don't need to be an expert. You just need the smallest amount of skills to understand, and you will become so much more capable, so much more confident, so much more able to create such better things. And to another point Ajay made, is a fun game to play is ask someone, how much do you cost? Oh, well, I get paid $50,000 a year. Yeah, that's amazing. I couldn't care less. How much do you actually cost? You draw a $50,000 a year salary, but now factor in taxes, benefits, these lights, somebody's got to pay for these lights. Somebody had to buy this desk. Somebody's paying for my office space. Well, again, back in the day, we had office space. So there's costs. If you understand just the most basic, simple, more simple aspects of accounting, now you can start to see and have a much better understanding and appreciation. Oh, if I create this course, that's going to contribute to the success of this company this way because, this lowers errors or it lowers the amount of injuries. Well, every time we have an injury, we have to replace somebody and has this cost, or if there's an error, we have to go through all this work and these people get cost this much per hour, so it saves this much. No, you don't have to be the accountant. No, you're not going to become the company bookkeeper. But if you have an understanding of these basic principles, you can contribute much, much more effectively. And you will be so much more confident when you do it, which just in turn, it snowballs. You're more confident, which means you can do more, which means you're more confident.
Yeah, it's interesting. Go ahead, Ajay.
So I think it speaks to, what Anthony's alluding to. And unfortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, I agree with Anthony here. L&D is one of those spaces that to me is a renaissance space, meaning that you have to know a little bit about bit about everything, but not necessarily be an expert in all of it. Okay, unlike if you're, as Anthony brought up, accounting or finance, they're focused on that one area and it relates to business directly, or marketing directs related to the awareness of the company and stuff like that. L&D, it touches upon all those areas, right? And so at technology, you just focus on IT. We need to be somewhat literate. And I get accused of this all the time. I get colleagues of ours that we all know that bash me about saying, you want us to be business experts and that's not our role, blah, blah, blah. I've never said that. I said, you're a business unit within a business that delivers business impact. So you better understand something about the business. And that doesn't mean to become an expert, to become literate. It applies to technology too. We're living more. Companies now are more fundamentally, entrenched in our technology companies. Rick, I think you said before, we're technology companies now. It doesn't matter what we do, we're technology companies. And so you have to have that awareness and that literacy. But again, you don't have to do a 5-star, dinner. You just need to know how to fry an egg. Is really what it is.
Yeah, one of the things that is valuable to a lot of people getting into, whether it's training, not learning, but let's say training, development, IT. We used to give people introductory classes to systems, and people go, "What's a system?" So we would talk about business systems. You've got accounts payable, receivable, purchasing, this, that, and they were like, "Wow, we never knew that." And simple stuff. And same with learning professionals or practitioners. They give them an introduction to the system. You're working in a company. What are the roles in a company? You don't have to go into great detail, but have a feeling, at least an idea of how things interact, how they interlock. And a lot of them don't have that. They go, well, I'm an educator. What are you educating? Key questions. What are you really educating?
Rick, there's another problem with the ID, instructional, and maybe Anthony will kick in here too. But that's another problem with those instructional technology programs, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Is that they're so academia focused. And I said this to one director here at a leading one at Concordia University in Montreal a number of years back. They said, "Oh yeah, we're doing this and that and making them great learning specialists." I said, "Yeah, but how much do you talk to them about the business side?" They said, "Well, we don't." I said, "Well, are 100% of them going into academia? Because they're not. So 9 out of 10 are not going to go into academia. So if you're not teaching anything about the business side, I'm going to use what the heck. I was going to use something else, but what the heck are you doing in the program then? Mm-hmm. It's useless, valueless."
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Oh, music.
Oh, it's that music time. We've only gone about 15 minutes.
I don't know.
Okay.
Rick, I figure you'd be playing Metallica with a beard like that.
With a beard?
His beard.
Anyway.
Enter Sandman.
Well, hey, Anthony, a pleasure meeting you and having you on. Well, we'd love to have you on again. And Ajay, we'll see you the next 40 weeks in a row, and we'll keep this going.
I think you'd want Leslie back in this chair because she's
you did a great job.
Probably quite smarter than me. So, anyways,
you did. You could. We need the wig. That's what you need. You'd be fine with the wig. But anyway, if you're watching the show, please subscribe and take a look at the classes they have on both of our people today. We've got Anthony Altieri. Take a look at his course, and also Ajay's got about 3 or 4 courses on LinkedIn. They've got some great informational stuff. Good stuff to take and learn. So we will see you guys next week on eLearnChat. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.